Aha. Naim. Mayegun làwa mọ̀ làmọ̀ tó dòdòdò. Mayegun Diary, Mayegun number one. Good morning to you, good afternoon to you, good evening to you. From wherever you are watching from. This is Mayegun live. Lórí Facebook, lórí YouTube. Mayegun Diary, Mayegun number one. Gbogbo bó ṣe ń lọ ni Mayegun já wa sí. Mayegun Diary, Mayegun number one. Àṣírí ọ̀jẹ̀lú kì í tó níbẹ̀ o. Mayegun Diary, Mayegun number one. Bó bá ṣe eré, àní Mayegun máa wí. Mayegun Diary. I got something today, which is part of our series on, history of Yoruba land and Yoruba people, from the Genesis to Revelation. So I got a delivery of one of the other books, and I'm going to be sharing that with you at some point on Mayegun's Diary Political. Quite interesting. The history of the Yorubas from the earliest times to the beginning of the British Protectorate, authored by Samuel Johnson. You know him. Ọ̀jẹ̀lú Ẹ̀súnlájì, Mayegun ti dé. Àní Ẹ̀súnlájì, Mayegun ti dé. Lórí Facebook, Mayegun ti dé. Àní Ẹ̀súnlájì, Mayegun ti dé. Lórí YouTube, Mayegun ti dé. Àní Ẹ̀súnlájì, Mayegun ti dé. Ọba bá gbé wúrẹ́, Mayegun máa wí. One of the things, one of the earliest signs, as you are joining us and sharing this broadcast, so tag your friends, invite your not so friendly friends, and tell them that Mayegun today, as usual. One of the things I quickly sensed that this is going to be a great, add-on of knowledge to many, many of us, especially the young people who are members of Mayegun's Diary Political and their Yorubas, who want to know their history. We all want to know our history. One of the things that I felt when I got the book was that I bought the book for, I don't know, maybe about £40, and then another book for another £40. I bought two books for about £80. And when this second one came, listen, I got a voucher. I mean, it's going to be a blessing, isn't it? I got a voucher of £75 to go and buy myself any nice, beautiful, expensive wine from this particular luxurious wine shop. So I will share the content with you. It's going to be a long read, but this tells us exactly where we started from. Detailed accounts that will help you to further research about who we are as a people, Yorubas, worldwide. Now, let's get started with the program. So share the broadcast once again. And yes, we like and yes, we like. I wish I could do that. I wish we could split it. I'll drink the wine on your behalf. While I, the very, very lovely wine. I'll drink that on your behalf while I divulge the contents of this great, great, great book. We'll read it together. Ọ̀jẹ̀lú Ẹ̀súnlájì, Mayegun ti dé. Àní Ẹ̀súnlájì, Mayegun ti dé. Thank you. So, just for a starter, before we get fully into the program, on this book, in this book, I want to give you a little bit of an insight to what I have been talking about. Why, when you see us reading this as a Yoruba man or a friend of Yorubas who just want to know more about us, this could be your window to knowing us better. Even us knowing ourselves better. So this is the introduction, a few pages. I'm going to read that before I get to this. Tinubu and gang. I know Nigeria, they say, is in darkness right now. Abi, the national, the electricity workers in Nigeria, they have now down tools, shut down the national grid, transmission, generation, whatever. The whole country in darkness as we speak. Just same way, the future of the young people who are supposed to be the future of Nigeria, as nobody really cares, as many of you probably have realized. Yeah, ASUU continues their strike. I'll come back to that, please. There's so much lovely stuff in there. Hang on. So the introduction into the history of the Yorubas from the earliest times to the beginning of the British protectorate. A long read or introduction, a quick one. The Yoruba country lies to the immediate west of the River Niger and south of the Kora, the western branch of the same river above the confluence, having Dahomey on the west and the Bight of Benin to the south. It is roughly speaking between latitude 6 degree and 9 degree north and longitude 2 degree 30 and 6 degree 30 east. The country was probably first known to Europe from the north through the explorers of northern and central Africa, for in old records, the Hausa and Fulanis Fulani names are used for the country and its capital. Thus, we see in Webster's Gazetteer, Yariba, West Africa east of Dahomey, area 70,000 square miles, population 2 million. Capital, Katunga. These are the Hausa terms for Yoruba and for Oyo. The entire south of the country is a network of lagoons connecting the deltas of the Great River Niger with that of the Volta, and into this lagoon, which is belted with a more or less dense mangrove swamp. Most of these rivers, which flows through the country north to south, pour their waters. It will thus be seen that the country is for the most part a tableland. It has been compared to half of a pie dish turned upside down, rising from the coast in the south gradually to a height of some 5,000 feet in more or less dense forest, into a plain diversified by a few mountains ranges continuing into its gentle rise in some parts to about 1,000 feet above sea level. It then slopes down again to the banks of the Niger, which encloses it in the north and east. In a valuable letter by the Reverend S.A. Crowder, afterward Bishop to Thomas J. Hutchinson, Esquire, Her Britannic Majesty's Consul for the Bight of Biafra and the island of Fernando Po, published as Appendix A to the book entitled Impressions of the Western Africa, we find the following graphic description of the country, describing the Yorubas. This part of the country, of which Lagos is the Bight of Benin, is the seaport. Which Lagos in the Bight of Benin is the seaport, is generally known as the Yoruba country, extending from the Bight to within 2 or 3 days' journey to the banks of the Niger. This country comprises many tribes governed by their own chiefs and having their own laws. At one time, they were all tributaries to one sovereign, the king of Yoruba, including Benin on the east and Dahomey on the west, but are now independent. This book was published in 1901, by the way. The writing started from 1930s. The original manuscript was lost, but the leftover and the pieces they could put together produced this first edition in the 1900s. So, the principal tribes into which this kingdom is divided are as follows. The Egbados. The division includes Ota and Lagos near the sea coast, forming a belt of country on the banks of the lagoon in the forest. Toketu on the border of Dahomey on the west. Then the Ijebu on the east on the border of Benin. Then the Egbas of the forest, now known as the Egbas of Abeokuta. Then comes Yoruba proper northwards in the plain, Ife, Ijesha, Ijamo, Efon, Ondo, Idoko, Igbomina, and Ado, near the banks of the Niger, from which a creek or stream a little below Ida is called Do or Ido River. The chief produce of this country is the red palm oil. Oil made from the kernel, shea butter from nuts of shea trees, groundnuts, barley seed, and cotton in abundance, and ivory. All these are readily procured for European markets. The present seat of the king of Yoruba is Ago, otherwise called Oyo, after the name of the old capital visited Clapperton and Lander, or let me say visited by Clapperton and Lander. A king is acknowledged and his person is held sacred. His wives and children are highly respected. Any attempt of violence against a king's person or of the royal family, or any act of wantonness with the wives of the king is punished with death. There are no written laws, but such laws and customs that have been handed down from their ancestors, especially those respecting relative duties, have become established laws. The right to the throne is hereditary, but exclusively in the male line or the male issue of the king's daughters. The government is absolute, but it has been much modified since the kingdom has been divided into many independent states by slave wars into what may be called a limited monarchy. Then physical features. The country, Yoruba, presents generally two distinct features: the forests and the plain. The former comprising the southern and eastern parts, or portions, rather. The latter, the northern, central, and western. Yoruba proper lies chiefly in the plain and has a small portion of forest land. The country is fairly well watered, but the rivers and streams are dependent upon the annual rains. An impassable river in the rains may become but a dry water course in the dry season. There are a few high mountains in the north and west, but in the east, the prevailing aspect is high ranges of mountains from which that part of the country derives its name, Ekiti, a mound, being covered, as it were, with nature's mound. The soil is particularly rich and most suitable for agriculture, in which every man is more or less engaged. The plain is almost entirely pasture land. Minerals apparently do not exist to any appreciable extent. except iron ores, which the people work themselves and from which they formerly manufactured all their implements and husbandry and war and articles for domestic use. Flora. The forest, or let me say the forest team with economic and medicinal plants of tropical varieties, as well as timber, of which mahogany, cedar, brimstone, counter, and iroko are the principal. There are also to be found the abura, useful for carving purposes, ebony, hata, a hard wood used for facing carpenter's tools, the iki, a hard wood which when dry is very difficult to work, as it speedily blunt-edged tools, the ori, another hard wood useful for making piers on the coast, and the hahanyo, a very hard wood, unaffected by ordinary fires, dry rot, or termites. All these are indigenous, but recently, Indian teak has been introduced and it flourishes widely, as well as the beefwood tree on the coast. Although a large variety of fruit can be grown, yet the people do not take to horticulture. What there are grow almost wild, very light and very little attention being paid to them. So to say, pawpaw, bananas of several varieties, plantains, oranges, pineapples, dioro, plums, yellow and black, the rough skin plum, the butt lime are to be found everywhere. Some fruit trees have been introduced which have become indigenous. Example, the sweet and sour sop, the avocado or alligator pear rather, guavas of two kinds, pink apples, rose apples, mangoes, the breadfruits and the bread nut trees, the golden plum, etc., etc. All these are cultivated, but not widely, as at 1900. Vegetables, of which there are several kinds, are largely cultivated. Yam, cocoa, cassava, sweet potatoes are the principal roots used as diets. Also beans, white and brown, small and large, and the groundnut are largely grown for food. The Guinea corn grows in the north and maize in the south. The calabash gourd and egusi from the seeds of which egusi oil is processed grow everywhere. Fauna, big game abound, especially in the north, where the lion is not far to seek. Also the elephant, buffalo, leopard, wolf, foxes, jackals, monkeys of various species, deer, porcupine, etc. The hippopotamus is found in large rivers, and alligators in the swamps and lagoons in the south. The usual domestic animals and poultry are carefully reared. Of birds, we have the wild and tamed parrots, green pigeons, stork, cloudbirds, and others of the tropical feathered tribe. The country was at one time very prosperous and powerful, but there is probably no other country on this earth more torn and wasted by internal dissensions, tribal jealousies, and fratricidal feuds, a state of things which unhappily continues up to the present time. When the central authority, which was once all powerful and far too despotic, grew weak by driving the powerful chiefs into rebellion and internecine wars, the entire kingdom became broken up into petty states and independent factions, as we now know them, Yoruba land. As far as it is possible for one race to be characteristically like another, from which it differs in every physical aspect, the Yorubas, it has been noted, are not unlike the English in many of their traits and characteristics. It would appear that what the one is among the whites, the other is among the blacks. Love of independence, a feeling of superiority over all others, a keen commercial spirit, and of indefatigable enterprise, the quality of being never able to admit or consent to a defeat, as finally settling a question upon which their mind is bent. Are some of those qualities peculiar to them? And no matter under what circumstances they are placed, Yorubas will display them. We have even learned that those of them who had the misfortune of being carried away to foreign climes so display these characteristics there and assume such airs of superiority and leadership over the men of their race they met there. In such a matter of fact way that the attention of their masters was perforce drawn to this type of new arrivals. And from then, they selected overseers. This trait will be clearly discerned in the narratives given in this history. But apart from the general, each of the leading tribes has special characteristics of its own. Thus, dogged perseverance and determination characterize the Jebus. Love of ease and a quickness to adapt new ideas to the Egbas. The Jebus and Ekitis are possessed of a marvelous amount of physical strength, remarkable docility, and simplicity of manners, and love of home. Among the various families of Yoruba proper, the Ibarapas are laborers farmers. The Ibolos are rather docile and weak in comparison with others, but the Ekpos are hardy, brave, and rather turbulent, whilst the Oyos of the metropolitan province are remarkably shrewd, intelligent, very diplomatic, cautious almost to timidity, provokingly conservative, and whether very masterful. The early history of the Yoruba country is almost exclusively that of the Oyo division. The others being then too small and too insignificant to be of any import. But in later years, this state of things has been somewhat reversed. The center of interest and sphere of importance having moved southwards, especially since the arrival of the Europeans on the coast. Such is the country, and such are the people whose history, religion, social polity, manners, and customs, etc., are briefly given in the following pages, starting with Yoruba language. I'm going to read this, I swear. You're going to love it. It's so amazing. It is detailed. You will get to know who we are, who are the Yorubas, how come that somehow, it is so difficult for people to agree, to be led by their noses when those who dragged us and kept us as part of Nigeria and watch us lose everything from our culture, tradition, our religion, and everything that defined us to this set of slavery or enslavement that they want us to get used to in Nigeria. So, ladies and gentlemen, you are welcome once again into tonight's broadcast. We're going to start with a big question, and if you want to put it this way, you will say, Nigeria is bleeding, Nigeria is hemorrhaging, Nigeria is dying. But those who are killing Nigeria, they never seems to care, right? Young people whose future should be paramount in every scheme of thing. For those who might claim to be representing us or even leading, so to say, even though they are not leading anybody but themselves, or rather doing it for themselves. So today, mm, I well, it was yesterday when the Minister of State for Labor, Festus Otobokeyamo. Thank you very much, Mrs. Toyin Olaoye. Oh, I mean, sorry, Adeoye, rather. How are you, ma? Thank you. Uh, the students in Nigeria have been on strike because the university workers have down tools, right? A 2009 agreement made with the government that has to do with financing them and all that, and then their salary structure and so many other things that has to do with finance or financial issue, right? 6 months ago, they down tools that if they were not attended to, now that they've realized that those criminals in government who lied to them years ago, those who promised them that they will give them the better life once they follow their change, those who tricked them, or should I say, who brainwashed or managed to force them. Were they even forced or something? I don't care. But somehow 7 years ago, those who promised them that once they come to power, the first thing they were going to make priority is going to be education. We're going to invest in education so much that the rest of Africa is going to become so jealous of many of you young people who are going to need the education. So they lied eventually. So 7 years down the line, they have now realized that they are never, ever going to ever get anything from them. And therefore, there was not going to be any work. Then they saw them printing money, sharing the same money. They saw them paying huge amount of money to terrorists. They saw them, borrowing as well, borrowing money to fund their private, luxurious lives. So they were seeing the politicians do all of that. So 6 months ago, for the recent one, they down tools. And Buhari's government decided to turn to blackmail, what they've done to you, many of you, for 7 years, when they blamed you for everything that has gone wrong with Nigeria since these rogues, these terrorists took power. So they turned it to blackmail. Like they were trying to run Nigeria aground with the amount of money they are requesting or asking for. But they are not running Nigeria aground when they are budgeting over 400 billion for the National Assembly members who are less than 1,000 people. That wasn't running Nigeria aground. When they decided to go and take a loan of $1.6 billion to build a rail track to Niger Republic at the ridiculous, interest rate that further destroyed your naira, that wasn't wrecking Nigeria. But fast forward to 2 days ago, the junior minister in Nigeria said they called a meeting. In that meeting, it wasn't to address any of the concerns, no. It was actually to plead with them like, please now, just go back to work now. We can't give you anything you are asking for, right? We don't care about, we don't really care about the future of these millions of Nigerians that we're wasting away. But if you care, please, when that didn't work, they told you, the parents, you need to go and beg ASUU, right? Now, cut it. The strike continues. So the bottom line is that you as a young person in that Nigeria today, right, who is still jumping up and down for APC, Egbekegbe, what exactly would you say is your motivator? As in, what is it that is motivating you? Genuinely, I have an answer. I'll come back to that because there's still a long one to do. Meanwhile, in 2019, when Kolu, when the Parkinson that is affecting Kolu, right? When the Parkinson and the dementia were affecting Kolu was still not so visible. And I remember then when Obasanjo was writing a letter. I bet you do too. And I think I remember when he wrote a letter as well that prompted Tinubu and gang to actually call out the same Obasanjo that they mobilized in bringing Buhari to government. So their first failure of 2015 to 2019, and in defense of that failure, in response to Obasanjo, Kolu, still a bit all right, had this to say just before what happened again today, just for the optics, as they will say.
The party of the past, who have spent 16 years of our precious life to demolish our economy, frustrate our people, and lead us almost astray. We said then, enough is enough. We came together. They call us all sorts of names. They say it's impossible. We bunched together. We chose a great symbol as our party symbol, the broom. We brought the revolution about. We got an army general retired to lead us, among other generals. They called me. We don't want the general. One member said he cannot be general anymore. He's tired of these generals. I say, until we finish with Boko Haram and looting, we need one more general at least. Those who ask me not to follow and support the general, Uncle Backdoor, who had been a general himself, and who had been elected president. I call him election rigger. Let's compare the two of you. The man has the temerity to write a letter, go to the post office. We say, no, we are not using the post office like that anymore. We are now using email. Your letter is not delivered. You are analog. They better look at their houses. The one they built the bomb. It is being deserted. It's out of frustration and migration to other various parties. If he has the temerity to say Buhari must not run again, in which party? Thank God he's not a member of our party. We hold our future in our hand. What is your business, busybody? Fortunately, he has turned the card of his previous party, his own legacy. So he has known no more. Now, we have a general that they asked me not to follow. Because it was a general. If you call yourself a Democrat, don't follow this man. I say I'm not mad enough to listen to your lies. Thank you, Muhammadu Buhari, for the job you are doing up to date. You have not set half of the records. The record of this general who is not a Democrat, he doesn't know the meaning of democracy. You have not tried to dismantle the National Assembly and impeach the party of the opposition or remove their governor with 6 out of 38 members, criminal assault on democracy. You have not done that, and they are writing letters.
So this is why it is criminal for you to now try and distance Tinubu from the failure of Boko Haram. It is a criminal offense. Do you understand? For those of you who are now trying your best, I don't know how you're going to do it, to distance Tinubu from the calamity Buhari. Abi, it is a criminal offense for you to even attempt it, because you are just trying to manipulate the truth. So this time around, you will say Boko Haram is Tinubu. Tinubu is Boko Haram. Boko Haram is Tinubu, and Tinubu is Boko Haram. Just say what you say. Boko Haram, Tinubu, they are both APC. Egbekegbe. APC, Egbekegbe is Boko Haram and Tinubu. When you try to change that, that is criminal. Even though the Baba they said was writing letter, who is also the godfather to Peter Obi, seems to be attracting Kolu as well. For example, today in Abeokuta. That's Obasanjo's house. I mean, come on. The same, well, they say it's politics, Abi. Don't worry. Let's continue. So, when it finally came down, then you get to see who he went to see. Obasanjo. Please come back.
Sorry, this way. Boris.
Excuse me.
So, touching base to say I want to be president, we came to Abeokuta to attend the program, and I cannot come here without saying hello to you, Baba Onileta. Maybe checking on Obasanjo if he has upgraded to email, or maybe Obasanjo is also now tweeting on WhatsApp. Whatever it is, it's just for the picture while Nigeria born. The young people in every, they say if if you care about the future, you will invest in the young people. And not just invest, you will invest in their education. In Nigeria, as at now, it is more or less like education is worthless, except for just to learn how to read and write. That's what they are teaching now. So if you are now a young person, like I have been reading everywhere, right, where many of you who are currently at home, and then, your rent in your different schools are still running, as Nigeria continue to stifle everyone economically. Your parents, or maybe yourself, are bearing the brunt of paying two rents in this case. Abi? Well, what now baffles me somehow, which I kind of figured out, but I am still not so sure of the practicability or the reality of that theory. Because in this same sense where the economy is on is currently on a grand stall, the education is in total collapse. The healthcare is in comatose. The power sector is completely crippled. Then the downstream sector completely carbalized. And in all of this, the victims are supposed to be or are the common man. But to my surprise, when you look at this APC, the other day, Festus Otobo Keyamo was defending Bokwari, and he said, Bokwari has crushed Boko Haram, that terrorism has become nothing in Nigeria. So what he was actually saying was that that they have browbeat you, traumatized you, to the point that you have grown numb to the level of violence, terrorism that is taking place in Nigeria. That some of you are no longer angry that people are being kidnapped en masse. People are being killed, slaughtered by terrorists en masse. And the same terrorists are getting pardoned by the same country that is broke, borrowing money to buy weapons, to be carted away by the same terrorists. So you have grown numb. So to them, you are not really reacting or surprised. 40 people killed in Zamfara. Hey, 40. They've killed 40 people again. Well, every day, people die every day. They killed a young man in Delta yesterday. My brother, people die every day. Do you know how many people they kill in Zamfara? Do you know how many people they kill in Maiduguri? Do you know, they have made you grow numb as humans. So to them, terrorism is nothing. Just the same way I have seen that when you see young people struggling, tearing cloth for this same APC, Egbekegbe, telling you that that's your next president, Tinubu is your next president, bragging about it. And I am like, how? What kind of witchcraft be this? But it's not a witchcraft. What I've figured out is that say two-way things. They create demography for this. Yeah, they create demography of those because young people who care about their future genuinely who have nothing to do with APC, Egbekegbe. Like absolute nothing. They've shown it. They are still showing it. Every responsible, a family member, let me put it this way. Every responsible adult, responsible in the sense that, you have something doing enough that you are contributing positively to the same society that is also helping and assisting you as a citizen and all that. I actually want to frame it in a different way because trying to understand the mind frame of the young people who fall in the category of those who are economically disadvantaged in everything, or the young people mostly economically disadvantaged because of the disruption in their education, the disruption in their health, as well as a disruption in their social support and all that, things that could help them mature and become productive, right? So they've taken all of that away and therefore made people enough to become maybe numb as well. Because I was wondering, what would make a young person still defend APC, associate with APC, Egbekegbe? I figured out that there's more that will make the young people, as they have been, to continue to align with their own oppressors. Terrorism is nothing, but people are dying. And then it was pretty much like, if it hasn't happened to me, then maybe it is not happening, or maybe it is being exaggerated. That leverage is what APC is giving back and saying, we have crushed terrorism so much that people don't even feel it anymore. As a success story, you as a young person, that you can tell that the destruction and the ruins that these guys have done put certainty into a bleak future for you, a future where you are not prepared, a future that they never prepare you for, the one that is cold, that is lonely, and that is, in a way, selfish, greedy, and it's kind of inhuman as well. That's exactly what they are preparing you for. And you as a young person, how do you actually make a choice or make peace with that? They have destroyed the economy and they continue to do it. Okay? Before they came in, they said that people destroying people, they were printing, so they were borrowing money to pay salaries. Today, I told you before December, many of you will not be able to receive any salary again. They have depleted everywhere, and they continue to move on like it's absolute nothing. And you, as a young person, if you picture yourself in the Nigeria they are building for you in the next 10 years, and you see those who are the drivers behind that, yeah, what would be that your motivator that actually makes you think? Your education is completely mortgaged, like forgone. Even those who got the education, they are finding their ways out of Nigeria before they could probably make any use of it in any way. A monopolized opportunity, space. That's civil opportunities for young people, and they do it with no care in this world. Like, what are you gonna do? The Ministry of Agriculture came out. It all started with their National Assembly talking about the ASUU and no money. Yeah, their National Assembly budgeted over 400 billion for themselves, including 35 billion to renovate the National Assembly. Yeah, 400 billion. They don't have the money, they will have to go and borrow it for themselves. And because Nigeria, as the way it is, yeah, when Nigeria destroy education, they don't just destroy education of a part. They destroy it for everyone that is part of Nigeria, including Yoruba land. One of the advantages of independent Yoruba nation out of Nigeria is the fact that at least Yorubas can be able to fund education properly for our children, because there lies the future that so many of you right now are not prepared for. There lies the safety from it. When they shut universities, they shut that. When they cut funding, when they cut everything out, and then they strangulate every the sector of funding, the resultant effect of that is going to be on our own on our own children who are going to form the future adults who are also going to find themselves in possible political positions, making decisions for your own children and your children, like what you are witnessing today. Nigeria, or one Nigeria, made that happen. Nigeria cannot fund education anymore, and Yorubas will have to live with that. Yes, we have to. They said, "Oh, let the universities fund themselves," which means let people pay and fund their own education without any interference from the federal government. Do you know why they won't do that? They will not do that. The reason is because if you want people to come to your school, yeah, it means that you would have to build standard. Abi, you won't have to use quota system to admit people into your different colleges. When in down south, to gain admission into Unity School or federal universities, you have to what? You have to get the highest cutoff mark to be at least eligible to be considered, which is under probability. Meanwhile, the up north, they don't really have to break a sweat. So if you allow the universities to fund themselves, it simply means people will have to come to your school because you have standard. They're not going to have to. Then the schools with the cutoff mark of 20 or 2 to gain admission into to study law and all of those, yeah, they will have the remnants, or they would have to increase their own standard. Increasing their standard will automatically cut off the northern populace access to education. So one Nigeria that these people built for you is to manage to have control and influence in every sector of Nigeria, and to be run according to the dictates of the backward northern criminal politicians, or political elite as you call them. So if you haven't seen it that way, I just painted a nice picture for you, and I'm going to paint more. It simply means that those of them brandishing cutoff mark of a 10, jam 10 in jam to gain admission, they would have to forgone that, because if you need to attract real funding from anywhere, you have to improve the standard. To keep the standard low and to continue to shun out mad illiterates, religious fanatics, bigots, who care nothing or no hoot about any one Nigeria other than the one that is serving their purpose. So they have to continue to hold that by saying, we will continue to fund it, even when they can't fund it. So this disadvantage of one Nigeria is what I just told you there. If Nigeria is not forced together as a unitary kind of a country, where everyone have access or are able to tap their own resources to build and develop their own different sectors as a people and as a country, the Yorubas, we can fund our own education. We did that without the oil money as they claim today. We did. But today, when you hear about ASUU, even right there in Yoruba land, everybody is at home. Now, those young people who were supposed to be, scholars, researchers, scientists, engineers, those who are supposed to build our world, they are now at home arguing. Those who are busy with Bet Niger, they are busy with Bet Niger. Those who are now running a gig for APC, PDP, they are doing that right now for the ASUU. And guess what? All of you are also still thinking Nigeria has a future. Who are those who are going to build that future? These hustlers that Nigeria is making, your politicians who are as well as hustlers, pickpockets, scroungers, lazy, jobless, freeloaders, entitled, crazy men and women. So look at the society and how conflicted it has become. Yorubas could generate electricity that could power our own homes, our industries, create jobs for our young people. I mean, create a safe border, safe communities within Yoruba land. All this can be done, but Nigeria won't let you do it. You know why? Because they have this fake constitution. In fact, I want to talk more about what Yorubas are missing. As a Yoruba man or woman, young person watching me right now, the reason why many people like myself are not, we are no longer in any way interested in any of those promises that those people will give to you. All the racial card or tribal card they're going to play, ethnic card, religious card, and all those cards they're going to play, emotional blackmail and all things that comes with them. This is their season. This is when they put up the best display of acting. Okay, there are no best actors than politicians. The ones that follow them are religious leaders. They are also the best actors and actresses. The ones after them, they are those who claim to be lawyers. They are also dramatists, personnels, right? But politicians take the first seats, and this is their season. The ones who are sick are going to present themselves as healthy, as agile, as strong as anything. The ones who are dumb, they're going to present themselves as smart, wise, intelligent. The ones who are wicked, they're going to present themselves as loving, caring, and then human. The ones who are like cold-hearted and murderous terrorists, they're going to tell you that they are from God and then the messiahs. This is their season. And in this life, politicians can play any role. If you want them to play the role of poor people, they will play that perfectly. If you want them to play the role of men of God, they will play that so perfectly. If you want them to play the role of the best economists in the whole world, politicians in this period, they will begin to sound like the best economists in the whole world. If you want them to sound, to hack the role of a scientist, politicians at this time, they will begin to dole out different scientists' terms and all of that. Yes, they are acting. And on Mayegun's Diary Politico, we have seen so many acts and so many actors in the past, to the point that everything just looked the same. Nothing fascinating, nothing interesting, just same scripts. Wash, rinse, and dry. Wash, rinse, dry. It's just a repetition. A catch-22 or a rat race. But we know that if not for this same constitution, trashy one, I'll tell you what you are missing as an indigenous people of Nigeria, okay? From everywhere we come from, right? Our land. If to say this land were allowed to breathe into us as we breathe into them, into it, yeah, it would have propered us. It would have, protected us. We would have felt safer. We would have felt, prosperous. We would have been more stronger than what Nigeria made. Nigeria made us weaker, and it made us weaker from within by destroying every value that we hold sacred as a people, right? And trying to change that into something that we are not. That conflicting stuff was made perfect by this trashy fraud called 1999 Constitution. I'm coming back.
Ten things you never knew about the 1999 Constitution. Did you know that the 1999 Constitution was promulgated by the Military Decree 24 of 1999? And to think of it, this 1999 Constitution was never subjected to a referendum.
Did you also know that this 1999 Constitution was written by a selected few that never got the consent of the indigenous nationalities or its representation?
Did you know that after writing the 1999 Constitution, it was hidden from the public until after the inauguration of President Obasanjo in 1999?
Funny enough, this 1999 Constitution was not printed by the government press or any known printers in 1999.
Did you know that the 1999 Constitution created a unitary government as against the projected federal government, and this forged an inefficient over-centralized government, as well as creating a centralized judiciary whom has never been autonomous?
In all this, did you know that this 1999 Constitution falsely and maliciously claims that the indigenous nationalities willingly handed over their lands and resources to the federal government?
And interestingly, did you know that the 1999 Constitution calls state governors chief security officers, but at the same time centralized all the security agencies and denies these state governors control over any of the security agencies?
And finally, do you know that the illegitimate 1999 Constitution in Section 6, subsection 6C, absolves the government from liabilities regarding rights of the citizens as provided in Chapter 2, making this right not justifiable?
This and many more are the reasons why corruption, unaccountability, incompetence, and insecurity are institutionalized in Nigeria.
That fake book, that I don't know. It's just because of these guys. They have been those who have made it difficult for you as a human being, a Nigerian in Nigeria, to attain your full potential. And I'll tell you how. It's like a structural takeover. When they said they were giving us democracy in 1999, so which then put us at the mercy of a federal government that was never federal. So, if you want to destroy a country, do you know, all you have to do is to destroy the education. If you can destroy the education of a country, then you have destroyed that country without having to fire a shot. Do you get that? There is this, there's this writing. In fact, a quote somehow said, "How to destroy a country." At the entrance gate of a university in South Africa, the following message was pasted for contemplation, just to contemplate, yeah. in quotes, destroying any nation does not require the use of atomic bombs or the use of long-range missiles. It only requires lowering the quality of education and allowing cheating in the examination by the students, because patients will die at the hands of such doctors. Buildings will collapse at the hands of such engineers. Money will be lost at the hands of such economists and accountants. Humanity will die in the hands of such religious scholars. Justice will be lost at the hands of such judges. The collapse of education is the collapse of the nation. You don't need bomb. You don't need missiles. All you have to do is to destroy the education. You know they have destroyed the education of Nigeria. You know it. Abi, the product of all those cheating, all those destruction, the children who were the product of that destruction, right? They are now the one destroying. They are the ones in control of Nigeria now, and they are the ones destroying and about to burn down Nigeria. Some of them are old now, and they continue to destroy that education. You see now, many of you who are at home right now watching Mayegun from Ikorodu, Isale Iko or Oshodi, or you are watching Mayegun right there in Abeokuta, or I don't know, wherever you are watching Mayegun from in Yoruba land. You are supposed to be in school. You are supposed to have had your 2-semester examinations. Maybe you should have had your, what do you call it? No, you've been stagnant. In that time, you have been the devil's workshop in either way or just wasting away. And you probably know that yourself. You do. No thanks to the rulers of Nigeria who did all of this deliberately. You should know that, deliberately. They are politicizing your future. You are supporting them. In 10 years' time, some of you are going to become PA to, or maybe you'll find yourself as councillors, chairmen. Education no kuku matter anymore, or does it? I don't think it matters anymore, right? Yeah. So you become what? Honorables, this and that. Since you can go and use your secondary school certificate, the one that didn't have any strike or delay, you don't need the university anymore, Abi. They destroyed that. And guess what? Now go come become lawmakers. Which law do you think they will be making? You see those ones who are making your laws now. You see those ones who are your governors now. They also lived through the period that their own forebearers also destroyed this same education. Don't let anybody lie to you. What you are doing right now is contributing to what your own children are going to face in 10, 15 years' time. It is what it is, except you break the circle if you want to. The people who destroyed Yoruba land, what they did first was to destroy education. And they were able to do that because of Nigeria. You know, once ASUU goes on strike, everybody goes home now. No be so. So once they send a curriculum and say, this is what you're going to teach them, that's what they will teach you, isn't it? So it is more or less like they shape you for a future that you're not prepared for. The one that will continue to make you enslaved in your own supposed country. You can stop that by getting proper education, and that proper education is by understanding what they are doing to you and the consequences of what they are doing to you, and how much of that damages that is to you. Maybe not you now, maybe your children. Think about that. That's how they do. Destroy the education, and you will destroy the country. Yoruba people. So when you see them walk about and do all of these promises and all that, well, that's up to you. Agriculture Ministry used 18.9 billion naira to clear grass, to clear bush, in 6 months. They're just heartbreaking, stories. But as a Yoruba man or woman, I can tell you this. If to say Yoruba land is allowed to run our own affairs as it should be, number one, by now, we would probably have developed a different template that will be the new technology, sort of, that will help us to harness, extract every resources that is available in our land, human and natural, that's there for us. Develop them to our own best use. Today, we would never have been poor. Our schools would never have been shut. Trust me, they would never have been shut. Our hospitals would never have been without doctors or without medicine. Of course, we would have never have to live in slums. We would never have to live in darkness. We would never have to live in poverty. I'm saying this to you because we have come a long way as a people. Nigeria and this British colonialism, they truncated our growth. And Nigeria is burying what should be our own legacy as a people. And unfortunately, the damage has been done, but we can still do a lot to help shape the minds of those that are coming, at least after us. So, I don't know what is motivating you as a young person. And I may never know what it is. I just think you can take a moment and tell yourself, where do you think, if Nigeria continues the way it is right now, where do you think you are going to be in 10 years' time? Away. Well, time will tell. I told you I'm going to read tonight because I really, really want to take you through, the early Yoruba. So if at this point you don't really like, the reading could be boring, of course you can excuse yourself, okay? I'm going to use the next hour to put this on Mayegun's diary, the Yoruba language, reading from the history of the Yorubas from the earliest times to the beginning of the British protectorate. You are welcome to be part of us if you would like it. So I read the intro to you earlier. Now I am about to go into detailed history of Yoruba language. Ladies and gentlemen, the Yoruba language has been classed among the unwritten African languages. The earliest attempt to reduce this language into writing was in the early 40s of the last century, which was the 18th century, 17 something, when the Church Missionary Society, with the immortal Reverend Henry Venn as secretary, organized a mission to the Yoruba country under the leadership of one of their agents, the Reverend Henry Townsend, an English clergyman then at work at Sierra Leone, and the Reverend Samuel Ajayi Crowther, the first African clergyman of the CMS, also at work in the same place. After several fruitless efforts had been made, either to invent new characters or adapt the Arabic, which was already known to Muslim Yorubas, the Roman character was naturally adopted, not only because it is the only best acquainted with, but also because it would obviate the difficulties that must necessarily arise if missionaries were first to learn strange characters before they could undertake scholastic and evangelistic work. With this as basis, special adaptation had to be made for pronouncing some words not to be found in the English or any other European language. The system, or rather, want of system, existing among various missionary bodies in Africa and elsewhere, emphasized the need of a fixed system of orthography. It was evidently essential for the various bodies to agree upon certain rules for reducing illiterate languages into writing in Roman characters, not only because this would facilitate cooperation, but also because it would render books much cheaper than when separate fonts of type must needs be cast for every separate system, scientific or otherwise, that each body may choose to adapt for one and the same purpose. In this effort, the committee of the CMS were ably assisted by certain philosophical doctors, as Professor Lee of Cambridge, Mr. Norris of London, and notably by Professor Lepsius of Berlin, to whom was entrusted the task of establishing a complete form of alphabetic system to which all hitherto unwritten languages could be adapted. The following remarks are largely derived from the second edition of Professor Lepsius' work. The professor consulted earlier efforts that had been made in India and elsewhere to transliterate foreign, which is Eastern characters into the Roman, and out of the chaos then existing, he established on a firm scientific basis the standard alphabet in which the Yoruba language is now written. This was adopted by the CMS in 1856. By this system, therefore, former translations had to be transliterated under certain fixed rules. The number of letters in the standard alphabet is necessarily very large, as it was designed to meet the requirements of all nations, but with diacritic marks on cognate sound and accents, and the introduction of 3 characters from the Greek. The Roman characters furnish all that is necessary from which every unwritten language can draw. It is very unfortunate indeed that the system has not been faithfully followed by all, for reasons we regard as inadequate and inconclusive. This has provoked the caustic remark of the distinguished philologist, Dr. R.N. Cost, that no class of mankind is so narrow-minded and opinionated as the missionary, except the linguist. For even in Yoruba, which professed to have adopted Lepsius' standard, certain particulars, as we shall see, have been departed from, by no means for the better. Keen was the controversy on this point between English and German missionaries of the Yoruba mission in its early days. In the following pages, the style commonly used in the familiar Yoruba translations is departed from in some important particulars, as they present some peculiar defects which ought to be rectified. We shall endeavor to follow Professor Lepsius' standard alphabet as closely as possible. Well, the professor himself has considered that shades of sound can be adapted therefrom to meet special requirements without departing from the principles laid down. Says he is, in his second edition, the exposition of scientific and practical examples according to which a suitable alphabet for universal adoption in foreign languages might be constructed, as I'm going to jump that and quickly go into a part that interests me when I was reading it earlier. Yeah, so certain rules of transcription are imperative for a correct scientific method of procedure. Whatever may have been the difficulties encountered in the ancient written languages, so far as the Yoruba and other unwritten languages are concerned, the field lies clear. The English mode of pronouncing the vowels had to be rejected in favor of the Italian and continental mode. One, let me say the following rules or principles have been laid down. And one, the power of each letter as representing certain sounds as handed down from antiquity should be retained. And two, the power of each letter as representing certain sounds as handed down from antiquity should also be retained. And then, three, in fact, that's the formation of the language in Yoruba. So the alphabet, the consonant, the system of consonants, the R, B, D, A, F, G, B. How did they come by that? They said the same way, the same may be said of the letter C, which is S, and the sound sh referred to above. So the difference is indicated in the standard alphabet by a diacritical mark, e.g., S like that as C, and then S with a mark underneath as she,